guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, which includes Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising, as well as the duology of the Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which is within the same world. This trilogy, though, came first, and this is the first book within it. It is a high fantasy story that deals with very interesting elements that I did not expect to really enjoy. This was a book that my sister had recommended to me when she was in middle school, and I've been meaning to pick it up for years now, and finally did. I ended up reading this for the Biannual Bibliothon for the challenge of reading 3 books, a chapter each, and picking one of those books from it, and this was the winner. And I gotta say, I was thoroughly impressed with this book. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know why, but I couldn't give it a 5 stars. Something about it didn't sit right with me, but it came so close to a 5 star that it was just ridiculous. But let me just get into some thoughts on it. So the main plot of the story deals with a girl named Alina Starkov who finds out that after being attacked by what are called Volcra, or kind of these like bird-like monsters, that she has this ability and is called a sun summoner. Now, she has never known she's had this ability her entire life, and when she finds out she's a sun summoner, she is whisked off to this kingdom called Ozalta with this character named the Darkling, who is essentially the second in command in the kingdom of Ravka, and he has her train her power to be able to be used to rid the darkness that plagues their land and is slowly growing as time goes on, because her ability is able to fight off the Volcra, which could supposedly be able to help rid the darkness that is within this world and hopefully even bring peace to the land. Throughout all of this, she also has a huge crush on her best friend Mal that she's never told him, and then after being whisked away to Ozalta, she starts to develop feelings for the Darkling, but she's not sure if he is telling her everything that she needs to know, and starts to develop some very strange feelings about being in this place, and she starts to wonder whether or not her powers are being used for good or evil. I have to say that this is some of the best world building I have seen. It's not to the level, I believe, of An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, but it is incredibly close. The images of this world are very crisp and very clear from each area of this world. It definitely feels like each place is different, which is great. It doesn't feel like any place is like muddy together, and I just love the writing style of this story too. It is so lyrical and beautiful and fits a high fantasy story really well. I was really impressed with also the dialogue of the story, as Alina is very snappy and she's very sarcastic, but she's also very vulnerable in the sense that she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't understand why she is placed in this position that she is, and she just wants to go home and just wants to be with her best friend Mal, and just wants things to kind of go back to how they were before she was attacked. Also, the politics of the society were played in well. There wasn't too much of it, but it played well with getting us to understand kind of where the Darkling is and where Alina is within society. There was a lot of good information about the different kinds of groups of people that are within the world, such as the different types of Grisha that are involved, which are essentially magical individuals. There are 4 different kinds. There are the Corpokai, which are kind of more of the soldiers of the world. Then there is the Ethereal Kai, which are kind of more of your basic magic individuals. They are the ones that are able to use things like water and earth to move things, and Alina falls into this category as she's what's called the Sun Summoner, so she is able to produce light from her own body and basically make her bright as the sun. I was mistaken. I said 4 groups and I meant 3. The third group of Grisha is called the Material Kai, who are basically more fabricators. They are more so the ones that build things and have abilities to melt things together to build them. But each kind of Grisha within this world has its purpose and it has its own abilities. But what's really interesting is that despite each of these groups being involved with this world, they all have the very same basic training. They all have to learn how to use their powers, but they also learn things like combat and other kinds of important skills like meditation and being able to hone powers and being able to control powers in the same way as other people, which is great, because I feel like when you have a kind of schooling system when it comes to magic training, you have to have a very similar foundation with each individual person, regardless if they have the same power or not, and then from there they can use their training to work for their specific powers. There were 2 main romances in this story, and one of them I was very pissed with, and for very good reason, because there is a huge talk about the character of the Darkling and how morally gray or even just outright assholery he is, because he reveals himself to be not a very good guy throughout part of this novel, and it's a little spoilery for that comment, but for a good reason, because there's a lot of people that talk about the Darkling being morally gray, as he thinks what he is doing is good and he's trying to do things that he wants to do because he thinks it's right. But no, I totally disagree with that. I think he is just an absolute asshole. He is not morally gray. He is an awful, awful dude because he is manipulative of people. He gets people to do what he wants by appealing to their emotions, and because he believes that the emotions are what make people weak. And he even says a line that says basically, the thing about wanting things is that it makes people weak. And so he uses that to his advantage. He uses Alina to get what he wants, and he makes her believe things that she shouldn't believe because he wants her to be on his side. And it's disgusting. I basically compared him to Hans from Frozen because that is exactly what he reminded me of. And I just absolutely despised him. However, the romance leading up to his reveal of being a bad dude actually was pretty cool. I really liked how I was fooled by the romantic interest because I was left reeling, which I think if that is supposed to be a huge plot twist, that is the best way to go about it, is to make people really think that this person cares about them and then ripping your heart out and crushing it. Leigh Bardugo did a really good job of that. The other romance involved is the crush on Alina's best friend Mal, which I just think is so sweet and so warming, and it's such a true crush, and it's a true love for her best friend because they literally have grown up together since they were babies, essentially. They have both grown up in the same orphanage together. They went into training together to become part of the First Army under the Darkling, and just you see the interactions between these two characters, and you just really see a lot of true love between the two of them, and it just makes your heart really, really happy and really makes you just want them to be happy, because you just want your precious babies to be happy, and they are my precious babies and I want them to be happy. I think that the one thing that kind of made me question things about this book, and may have been the thing that did not let this book get 5 stars, is kind of the relationship between Alina and Mal, because I feel like there was a point in the story where it almost made it seem like Alina was being held back by her love for her best friend. Because a lot of this novel, they're separated and she misses him and she never hears from him, and so she thinks that he hates her and that he never wants to see her again. And so the only way she's able to really hone her power and be able to use it is to let go of him, because she thinks that it's just better for her to never think of him again and never be able to let herself love him. I don't feel like that's a really strong message. I feel like that's kind of problematic in a sense, only because I feel like there shouldn't have been that block to begin with. I think if there was to be a block of any kind on her power, what was revealed much later on in the story regarding the reason she blocked her power in the first place was fine enough. But I think that, having her to have to let go of Mal to gain her power, I think that should not have happened. I think that there should have been just the mental block breaking of being able to just let go and be able to let her power flow through her, as opposed to it being a love-centered block. I feel like that's not something that would really, really work. I don't know. It's something that just kind of bugged me, and I don't know how other people felt about it, but something just didn't sit right with me with that one. The ending of this book was also really, really nice because it gave a very hopeful ending for Alina and what she has to go through later. But the story also made the reader understand that there are so many things later that can happen, and there's a lot of uncertainties ahead for Alina and for her abilities and what the Darkling may have in store for her later. And it makes it not only hopeful, but also makes you understand like there's more to come from this, and makes it intriguing enough to where you want to almost pick up the second book right away. So overall, I ended up giving Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.